Now to the war in Gaza, and the Hamas militant group says it's discussing a U.S.-backed ceasefire proposal with other Palestinian groups and will reply when those talks have concluded. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's committed to eliminating Hamas and securing the return of all remaining Israeli hostages, only 20 of whom are still believed to be alive.
Still waiting for their loved ones to return home. These Israelis are demonstrating to remind the public of the 50 hostages yet to be released by Hamas terrorists. Among them, the German ambassador to Israel, who's urging the militant group to accept the latest ceasefire proposal.
This deal will achieve 3 goals: to bring all the hostages home, to put an end to their ordeal and allow them to return to the embrace of their families, to end the war in Gaza and prevent more young Israeli soldiers from falling in the ruins of Gaza, and to free hundreds of thousands of civilians in Gaza from the terrible reality they've been living in for 20 months.
The current deal on the table would see a 60-day truce, the release of 28 hostages, expanded humanitarian aid, a partial withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza, and US-backed negotiations aimed at finding a long-term solution to the conflict. That ceasefire could bring urgently needed relief to Gazans, who continue to suffer daily under the Israeli campaign, like here in Khan Yunis, where, according to the Hamas-run health ministry, scores of people have been killed in recent attacks. The Israeli military has not yet commented on the strikes, which left some families devastated.
My sister and brother and everyone is gone. Oh God, reward me for my suffering and replace it with something better. My son and daughter and their children, my children, my children. They were all small children, no older than 12. They were 12, 10, 8, 5, 2 years old, my loved ones. 13 people from one family.
Hamas says it is discussing the ceasefire proposal and will make a decision soon. But for many, any agreement between Israel and Hamas will come simply too late.
Well, for more on this, we can speak now with Oliver McTurnan. He's director of the organization Forward Thinking and was involved in negotiations that led to the release of the Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit in 2011. Though he has no formal role in the current talks over the war in Gaza, he does speak regularly with senior figures in both Hamas and the Israeli government. First of all, welcome to the program. Now, Donald Trump says he expects Hamas to respond on the current ceasefire proposal within 24 hours. How close do you think we are to a deal being done?
Well, I sincerely hope I'm wrong in saying this, but I'm not optimistic. And I'm not optimistic simply because of the way they have gone about this. Netanyahu brings a deal to Donald Trump, he endorses it, and then they say to Hamas, you've got to agree to this or things will get worse. Now, that may work well in Trump's business world, or the way he does his business deals, but it certainly, I fear, will not work in the field of conflict. And it also begs the question, how worse can things get when we're witnessing at least 100 people a day, starving people, being killed in Gaza? I don't think things can get worse.
What can Hamas realistically expect to get out of any ceasefire deal with the Israelis?
Well, what they've been asking for and what was agreed in mid-January, if you recall, before Biden left office, was that the 60 days in which hostages would be exchanged for Palestinian prisoners, there would also be a real serious attempt to find ways to a permanent ceasefire. I think without a permanent ceasefire, we're simply papering over the cracks, also without a realistic political vision for Gaza post-ceasefire, we're papering over the cracks. There's one opportunity now to break an 80-year-old cycle of violence, and I think that will only come if Trump takes this issue really seriously and says, enough of the killing, we've got to find a real durable political solution. And that will have to involve, I think, engagement in the political process of groups like Hamas. We've learned that lesson on the island of Ireland, where for hundreds of years there was no resolution to the conflict until a real attempt to solve it politically by engaging all parties took place. And now, thankfully, that's moved from a violent conflict into a political process.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says that bringing home the hostages is a top priority, but he's also been focused on eliminating Hamas. How is he balancing these objectives, do you think?
Well, I think he's right from day one. Those were his two objectives. And I think that's why we're here 20 months later. You can't say, look, I'm going to negotiate for the safe return of the hostages, which we all hope for. We want to see their suffering end and the suffering of the families, but equally the suffering of 2.3 million people. You can't say that and at the same time say to the people you're negotiating with, I'm going to see your total elimination. It just doesn't work. I think Trump has to be very direct. He's the only person at the moment who has the power to get this on the correct process. I think Netanyahu is under enormous internal pressure still. It's not just a question of keeping Ben-Gvir and Smotrich on board, but we're just seeing that he narrowly survived a revolt from the ultra-Orthodox over the draft of young Orthodox into the military. But he equally is under pressure now, I see, from his foreign minister, Gideon Saar, who yesterday said, look, we've got to use every opportunity to see that the hostages return to the family. So I think he's under a lot of pressure, but he will play the word game publicly. That'll go on, but the price of that, I think, will be more killing of innocent people in Gaza.
Now, the U.S. is playing a critical role, or a role at least, in coordinating the current talks. You said the Trump administration's position here is crucial. What influence does the U.S. have in any negotiations at this point? What leverage does the Trump administration have?
Well, I'm not directly involved, as you rightly pointed out at the beginning. But what I observe is because Trump allowed Netanyahu to walk away after 2 months from the deal that was signed and guaranteed by the Biden administration that they would see it through to a permanent negotiations on a permanent ceasefire, I think this current approach, America is suffering from what I would say a deficit of trust. If they didn't enforce the terms of the previous deal, it's very difficult to see how the other side can have complete trust in the words that they say. Well, we are hoping this will lead to negotiations on a permanent ceasefire. I think they need to be more explicit on that and say, we will guarantee, and this time you can take our word, that we will work for an end to the, as I say, the 80-year-old cycle of violence and a political vision that will give durable security and peace to both Palestinians and Israelis.
Oliver McTernan, peace negotiator and director of Forward Thinking. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, for more on this, we can talk now to Karim El-Ghahari in Cairo. Karim, Donald Trump says he is expecting Hamas's response on the current ceasefire proposal within the next 24 hours. What do we know about the proposal so far?
Well, not much, frankly. I mean, we're reading a little bit in the coffee cup here in the last days. Trump said that Israel accepted the 60-day truce deal he's proposing. And now he's saying that Hamas will give an answer within 24 hours. It is said that Hamas is now conferring with other Palestinian factions in the Gaza Strip. And there are leaks that Hamas wants to have guarantees for an end of the war, for a permanent ceasefire. And that is nothing new. I mean, Hamas' position really never changed over the last months. There are always two sticking points for them. They want to have a guarantee that this is the final end of the war. And they will also want to have a full withdrawal of the Israeli army, which right now on the ground controls about 80% of the Gaza Strip. So nothing new from the Hamas, always the same demands. Now we have to see what's going to happen in the next days.
And meanwhile, there's no let-up in the violence in Gaza, Karim. There have been some harrowing accounts of shootings at aid distribution centers in recent days. What are you hearing about these attacks?
Many accounts from the Palestinians telling the story how they, in their thousands, in the middle of the night, they go through this mooned landscape where like everything is destroyed. They walk over sand dunes through an Israeli military area that is controlled fully by the Israeli army. Finally, they arrived in some kind of fenced-in area before they come to the distribution center. And that is where they say they're normally shot at. NGOs are talking that we had until now more than 550 dead around these distribution centers, more than 4,000 injured. We have accounts from now anonymous US contractors who are working there who are saying that their colleagues are shooting unprovoked at the crowd. You can hear in their videos they were providing shots. You cannot see how they were shooting at the Palestinian crowd, but you can hear one contractor saying, "Oh, did you hit one?" And before we had also accounts from the Israeli soldiers to some Israeli soldiers to the Israeli newspaper Haaretz, where they're saying the same thing, that they have orders to fire onto the crowd unprovoked. So we have Palestinian eyewitness accounts. We have NGOs and medics who are saying this. We have Israeli soldiers who are saying that they're shooting at the crowd. Now we have US contractors, yet the Israeli army and the GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, who is running these centers, they are all still denying that this is happening.
Karim, thank you very much. That was correspondent Karim El-Ghahari in Cairo.
You're welcome.